Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our lesson this morning about high-level competitive decisions. One of the things I'd like to discuss before we get into the lesson, though, is about playing in our tournaments on BBO. And I really need to stress a couple of things that I'm going to make it essential for players to understand. And one of those things is to understand how to use the claim button, because the claim button actually saves time on BBO when where actually our time limit is 18 minutes per every 3 boards. One of the things you don't want to do is waste all of that time for one hand where you're simply playing out all of the 13 tricks. So one of the things you must familiarize yourself with is the claim button as to where it is. Now, once a player does make a claim and you're an opponent, both of the opponents have to accept the claim for the hand to move on to the next hand. So it's not a question of one of the players in the partnership accepting it, it's a question of both players. Now, on that subject, you don't have to accept a claim, of course. If you can see that it's not right, then don't accept it. One of the things that does happen, though, is that all 4 of the hands pop up. So you can see hopefully within a few seconds, that a declarer has the rest of the tricks or doesn't. Sometimes the declarers you can claim, and you can claim all bar 1 of the tricks or all bar 2 of the tricks. So that's something to also look at. And I think once that speeds up the hands, that means that you can have time to spend on more important decisions rather than feeling that you're necessarily rushing on a hand where you'd like to give it just that little bit extra bit of thought. 2 other things to consider. One of them is alerting. I'm not seeing a lot of alerts. And I think now that we're weeks into playing, that players should know how to alert. Take a look at the end of yesterday's video, and I've actually given an example of how to alert. And the idea of alerting is that you always write the description, and it just has to be a brief description, like it can be Bergen, it can be Stayman, it can be transfer, it can be game force. You write that in the line underneath the bid, where the bids are, and then you simply make your bid. And the explanation's up there. If a player hasn't alerted something, and you'd like to ask them what that bid means, then you can simply click on their bid on your screen, and up will come on their screen will come, please explain what this bid means. So rather than writing people a message, and because writing messages take up a lot of time, and also on that subject of writing messages, you can actually direct your messages to either the entire table or to one player in particular. I find that if you direct the message to the table, now of course partner won't see it when it's directed at the table, then that's quicker, and it means that somebody will be able to explain a particular bid's meaning for you, or something extra in information, or being able to suggest a player that you'd like an undo, or etc. All of those things. So the more you get used to playing on BBO, the more enjoyable it will be. Okay, so let's launch into today's lesson and what it's all about. It's all about high-level competitive decisions. So what's high-level competitive decisions all about? Quite often, the opponents tend to take a sacrifice against our contract. And once they've taken that sacrifice against our contract, we have a crucial decision to make. Do we bid on to the 5 level? And often we're talking about perhaps the opponents have sacrificed over our 4 of a major suit contract. Or do we simply say, okay, well, the opponents have got the better of me, I think I will double, rather than risking bidding 1 more. And I've found amongst club players that club players always like to bid 1 more. That's because they feel like it's an insult for an opponent to take away their contract from them by sacrificing over their 4 of a major contract. So careful decisions must be made. Now, some of those decisions to make often depend on vulnerability. Now, when it comes to vulnerability, there's such things as favorable vulnerability, when your side is not vulnerable and the opponent's side is vulnerable. And there's also adverse vulnerability when it's the other way around. Now, if you're playing match point pairs, which is what we play in the afternoons here, then often it's the vulnerability that that doesn't take such an important, or doesn't play such an important part in your decision as to whether to bid one more or not. Now, obviously, if the opponents are taking a sacrifice against you and they're vulnerable and you're not, of course you're going to be doubling them more often than if the vulnerability was around the other way. But if you've got equal vulnerability on hands, you're all vul, you're all or both nil vul, then simply you need to make the right decision for your side. If you bid one more, will we make it? If you bid one more and go down, then it was likely that you have missed out on the opponent's penalty. You haven't taken that from them. And this is the difficult part about this whole area of high-level bridge. And one of the decisions that we make is often dependent upon how the opponent's suit is breaking in your side. So, for example, let's say the opponents have gotten to a 4-spade contract. So let's pop this up on the board as a sacrifice against your 4-heart contract. The bidding has gone 1 heart, 1 spade, let's say 4 hearts, just for argument's sake, and you're sitting here with the south hand, and your spade holding is, for example, ace to 3. Now, is it likely that a partner has a shortage in the opponent's suit? The shortage being either a singleton or a void. And the answer is yes, because more often than not, the opponents will sacrifice with 9 or more trumps. And that is normally their defense, or that is normally their way, their reason for sacrificing is because they have more than an 8-card trump fit. So if that's the case, then quite often partner is likely, if you've got 3, that they have got a singleton. So for example, though, if you've got two cards in spades, then there's every chance partner might also have 2 cards in spades. So we might have what we refer to in bridge as duplication. That is, both you and partner hold 2 cards in a suit. So we have to be able to find out whether this is the case or not, based upon how both sides have bid during the auction. But the first bit of advice I'll give you is this. More often than not, when an opponent takes a sacrifice against your game contract, then more often than not, they will have 9 or more trumps. So a good holding for, a bad holding for your side tends to be when you have a doubleton in that suit. So doubletons tend to suggest that your side defends rather than bids on. Now, the other thing to consider also is as to whether your pass indicates one thing or another. So when the opponent sacrifice, you have 3 choices. That is, you either double, or you bid one more, or you pass. And we'll get to the pass in a minute, because that pass is a very, very interesting call. And it will be something that we refer to for the rest of this lesson as a forcing pass. And that is the crucial aspect of this entire lesson, to understand what a forcing pass is and how you recognize it. But before we hop into that, let's have a look at one of these example hands of trying to find out about the opponent's trump fit. So, for example, on the west hand here, you open 1 diamond. I'll pop my little pointer on. On the west hand here, you open with 1 diamond. North overcalls a spade, and your partner bids 2 hearts, which is natural and forcing. It's a shift to 2 of a major by the responder, so it promises a minimum of 10 points and a minimum of 5 cards. South makes a preemptive raise to 3 spades. And because you have 4-card support, and that is a 9-card trump fit, yep, you make a raise of partner's 2-heart bid to 4 hearts. North sacrifices in 4 spades. Why? Because look at the vulnerability here. East-west are vulnerable. North-south are not vulnerable. And just a little bit of an insight, everyone. Quite often, it's the right idea to sacrifice in 4 spades over the top of the opponent's 4 hearts at most vulnerabilities, except for vulnerable versus not. So even nil vulnerable, even all vulnerable, and definitely favorable vulnerability, it's often a good idea to sacrifice in 4 spades over the opponent's 4 hearts, because it's the opponents that then have the difficult decision to make. Do they bid on or do they not bid on? Now, as I suggested to you, when the opponents do take a sacrifice in 4 spades, often the reason for them taking the sacrifice is that despite their lack of high card points, and remember, North's simply a 1 spade overcall, and South has made one of these preemptive raises. You see that jump? They have jumped to 3 spades over 2 hearts, and that's what we refer to as a preemptive raise, similar to the idea of Bergen. 1 spade, 3 spades. In Bergen, that's a preemptive raise. Similarly, it is also when partner has overcalled, because the options that the advancer has is that the advancer can also use a Q raise in order to show more points on their hand. So 3 spades here, this jump, was not done to announce good points. It was done to announce the fact that the partnership holds at least 9 cards in spades. So North knew that South had 4 spades when they did 3 spades. They also knew, for 2 reasons, that they didn't hold many points. Why? Because that 3 spades was a preemptive jump, A, and B, because East-West had already shown high card values, that is strength. West had opened a diamond, 12 plus, East had bid 2 hearts showing 10 plus. So it looked like East-West had the balance of the points. And this is where we get to the next crucial side, part of this lesson. What would you do here with the East hand? It's a very difficult decision to make. That is, should East bid on to 5 hearts? After all, it's possible that East-West won't get rich by doubling 4 spades. Why? Because they only hold a shortage in the opponent's spade suit. Don't look like any trump tricks at this point, unless, of course, partner holds something good in the opponent's spade suit. And that's something that we will get to in a second. But also, this hand has 12 points. Maybe you can make 5 hearts, but maybe you'll go down. But does East have a clear-cut decision? Just because you're looking at a singleton doesn't mean that bidding 5 hearts is the right call. So this is where the 3 options come up. And the 3 options are, do I bid 5 hearts? Do I double the opponents in 4 spades? Or do I pass? Now, what does that pass mean? Well, whenever your side owns the balance of the power in an auction, if you pass, then you're saying to partner, I'm interested in bidding on. I'm interested in bidding on, probably because I have a holding in the suit that is indicating to me that perhaps I should be bidding on. And having a singleton indicates to you that as East, you should be bidding on. But what if partner's sitting over here with a couple of spade winners, like the ace-king of spades instead of the ace-king of diamonds? Surely partner would rather double 4 spades than play in 5 hearts. So the pass by East is what we refer to as a forcing pass, saying, partner, I'm interested in bidding on. You tell me whether we should or shouldn't. South passes and West says, well, it's pretty obvious the opponents have 9 cards in spades. My partner, if the reason they want to bid on is obvious to me, the West hand here, East has a shortage in spades. So if that's the case, that means all of West's high card points here, Queen, Ace, King, Jack, Queen of Hearts, are all what we call working cards. So if they're working cards, then it looks like a good idea for West to bid on to 5 hearts. So this is the principle that we're going to speak about time and again in this auction, in this lesson. And it's all about the idea that something exists called a forcing pass. Forcing pass meaning partners not allowed to pass the auction out. So when East passes and South passes, West has 2 choices, either to bid 5 hearts or to double. Now, because they have nothing in the opponent's spade suit, on the West hand here, they choose to bid 5 hearts. And if you look at the hand as a whole, we'll go through the play of that hand a little bit later. East-West can make 5 hearts, and North-South would go how many down in spades? Probably 1 down or perhaps 2 down in a spade contract here, everyone. So this is what we've achieved by North-South getting to 4 spades. They've achieved something in the sense that they've pushed East-West up to the 5 level. So that's when North-South sits back and they go, okay, let's see if we can defeat them at the 5 level. It's a bit like we've pushed you up to here and then we'll see what happens. So let's continue on. And here in the notes here, we discuss about how long is the trump fit. It would be a rare occurrence to bid on to the 5 level after the opponents have sacrificed if your side holds only 8 trumps. Does that make sense to you? So there's got to be reasons to bid on to the 5 level. And one of the reasons to not bid on to the 5 level is if you were quite certain that your side only holds 8 trumps. So back to that hand here, West bid on to 5 hearts. Why? Because they knew that the 2 heart bid promised 5 or more cards in hearts. So West bid on to 5 hearts because the partnership held at least 9 cards in hearts, as well as the discussion about partner having probably a shortage in spades. Let's continue on. So these are essentially guidelines to suggest to you that why you should or shouldn't bid on and what you need to hold. I'm just going to show you something, an example hand here that came up in 1992. So this is a very, very long time ago. And it turns out to be one of my favorite, if not my favorite hand of all time. It was the final of the Spring Nationals here in Sydney. Matt, could South have preempted with only 3 spades? No. Good question, Kathy. Preemptive raises always indicate the number of trumps in the fit. So if you make a preemptive raise to the 3 level, you need to know that your partnership holds 9 trumps. If you make a preemptive raise to the 4 level, you need to know that your partnership holds at least 10 trumps. So an example of that, if I open a spade and you as my partner bid 4 spades, that's what we call a preemptive raise. And it's also known as a weak freak raise. And because it's preemptive, it means that you, my partner, must hold 5 cards to go in the spade suit with my 5. So Diane's asked the key question here, absolute key question in this auction, in this lesson. How does partner know when a pass is forcing and not simply a real pass, a non-forcing pass? The idea is this. If your side is known to hold the balance of the power, meaning more points than the opponents, then only one of 2 occurrences can happen. And one of them is not allowing the opponents to play undoubled in their sacrifice. So that means that if the opponents sacrifice and the next player passes, and your side is known to hold at least more than half of the points in the pack, you're the one that known to hold strength, then that's when partner will know that the pass is forcing. So I'll go back to that example hand from here, and that should explain it. West has opened the bidding with 1 diamond, 12 plus points. East has bid 2 hearts, 10 plus. Who has the most high card points on this hand? East-West. Therefore, if the opponents take a sacrifice, that is north-south, then the 4 spades sacrifice will never go undoubled, which means that the pass here simply says, partner, we obviously own the hand, and the opponents are obviously sacrificing. Therefore, if I pass, it doesn't say I want them to play 4 spades undoubled. If I want them to double them in 4 spades, or if I have no reason, let's say you've got the 8, the 3 of diamonds was the 3 of spades here, then East would double. Why? Because that hand looks more like a hand that's willing to defend rather than declare. So with the singleton spade, East passes and says to partner, partner, I'm keen to bid on. I'm making a forcing pass. Why? Because we own the points on this hand. They can't play 4 spades undoubled. Either 2 occurrences are going to occur. It's going to be 4 spades doubled if you wish, or your choice is to bid 5 hearts. But the choice here is never to pass. You cannot pass the opponents out in 4 spades when you own the points on the hand. Okay, let's move on. I hope that explains that, Diane. So let's have a look at, quickly have a look at this hand here. This came from the 1992 Spring Nationals final, and our opponents were playing an interesting system in that they opened the shorter of their suits rather than the longer if they had a 4-card and a 5-card suit. So also it meant that they had a limited system. They played something where 1 club opening was 16 or 15 or more points. So East opened 1 heart on this hand, and I was looking at this monster in the south cards. Absolute monster. So for better reason, for good reasons or not, I chose to double on this hand because I felt nothing else did justice to my hand. West passed, and my partner, whose only long suit was hearts and only had 2 points, didn't want to pass 1 heart doubled out. And you can sort of understand that because North was so weak. So North made perhaps a little risky bid, but bid 1 spade, the 3-card suit at the 1 level. So this is when the bidding got interesting. You notice the vulnerability here is that everybody is vulnerable. And East jumped to 4 clubs, which actually promised 4 hearts and 7 clubs. Well, it still didn't change my hand here because I was still looking at 2 losing clubs. This was a very difficult hand. I didn't quite know what to do. If I had bid 5, subsequently, probably my best bid would have been 5 clubs or something like that, and hope my partner got it right. But I just contented myself with bidding 4 spades. And then West came in and bid 5 clubs. Now, East-West were taking a vulnerable sacrifice at the 5 level. The only reason, and knowing I'm playing against 2 experts, 2 fantastic players, then it was evident to me that the only reason that West would do this is because West must have had 3 or more clubs. Well, if there was 7 here, which was announced by the 4 club bid, and if there was 3 here and 2 here, I could guess my partner had 1 club. So when West bid 5 clubs and it came pass around to me, now I was confident to bid 6 spades. Just a bit of an end part of that story is that you're looking at this hand, the opponent's passed it out, and you become dummy, which is actually quite an interesting scenario. But when East made an opening lead of the ace of hearts, my partner, before I'd even put dummy down, was yelling at me at the top of his voice saying, I can't believe that you could bid that way. I put down dummy and he said, what a wonderful hand. Thank you, partner. And Julie wrapped up making 6 spades. But why am I giving you this hand? I'm giving you this hand because I was able to judge on the auction how many clubs the opponents held by the way that they bid. And that's an interesting thing to note when you have to make a decision as to when you bid on or not. Susan's asked, how would you bid this if you don't have that system and open clubs first? Over one club, I would double. This hand would probably pass. Partner would bid one heart. And we may or may not get to 6 spades. I'm not quite sure. I'll have to think about that, Susan, and get back to you. So I'll think about how that works. Okay, which players should bid one more, or which players should double? Pardon me. The tricky situation is that it could be either player who doubles and either player who bids on. Double by either player should be a willingness to defend. And normally that's dependent upon what your holding is in the opponent's suit. And the worst holding that you can have in the opponent's suit is 2 cards. So that means that more often than not, when you have 2 cards in the opponent's suit, you should tend to double. The player in the first seat with the shortage should pass, showing a willingness to bid on. That's true, but it's possible that the player in first seat could also pass if they had 3 small cards or ace to 3 cards. Why? Because they're quite certain their partner holds a singleton. The player with the length of 3 cards is in the best position to take the action. That is true. So if one player does make a forcing pass, their partner is in a position then when they can judge based upon their holding in the suit as to how high whether to bid on or whether to double. And we'll look at some of these hands as we go along. The other thing to consider here, evaluating hand ownership. And I thought I'd give you this little hand here and show you what can go wrong in an auction. West opens 1 heart. North here bids 1 spade, and East makes a very poor decision and bids 4 hearts. Why do I say that's a poor decision? Because partner will probably expect that jump to 4 hearts to be preemptive. That is, showing a lot of hearts and not many points. The partner has the reverse. They have only 3 cards in hearts and they have 14 points. So East has made a poor decision here by bidding 4 hearts. We'll look at a hand in a moment to show you what East should have done with those particular cards. When South does bid 4 spades, West is looking at this collection, thinking they're opposite 5 cards in hearts, not many points. So West obviously bids on to 5 hearts, and that seems like a sensible decision to make. Why? Because the 4 heart bid had already shown a weakish hand. So it looked like East-West had no defense to 4 spades. Well, the upshot and the result on the hand was silly. 5 hearts went down because they were missing a spade trick and a couple of diamond tricks, so it went down. But 4 spades would have been, if you had doubled it, would have gone down a lot of tricks. So East-West were a victim of their own poor, not poor judgment, but poor bidding. Why? Because East didn't tell partner the hand belongs to us. Do you remember a hand yesterday that I played with Tony? And it was, in fact, it was the first hand that came up. I'll just quickly rub it out and show you what my hand was, if I can remember it. I think it was this. I held ace only, jack to 3, ace, jack, 10 to 5 clubs, I think I had 4 small diamonds. Now, partner had opened the bidding. It went 1 heart, and our friendly robot bid 2 spades, weak jump overcall. Now, it looks like with a singleton, etc., that I could bid 4 hearts and would probably make it. But if I bid 4 hearts here, partner should expect me to have more of a preemptive hand, yeah, than the hand that we're looking at. And I know that our side holds the balance of power. So what do we do here? We bid 3 spades, which is a Q raise, saying to partner, partner, we own this hand. I've got a heart fit for you, but also you can guarantee by me making a Q raise that I've got 10 plus points. And now you're in a position where the partnership knows that they own the hand. And once they know they own the hand, then that's when a forcing pass can apply in an auction. If the partnership doesn't own the hand, then the forcing pass doesn't necessarily apply. Forcing pass, it seems, actually, I did write it seems like a contradiction in terms that you're passing because you want partner to bid on. But it's simply, you look at it this way. You pass because you're not sure what decision to make. You're saying to partner, I think we should be bidding on, but you might have another idea. Bidding 5 over 5, what does that mean? It means that more often than not, bidding 5 over 5 is a poor decision. To Q-raise, can you have 3 card support? Yes, you can. Q-raises simply say, partner, I've got 3 or more card support for your major. And here we go, we've got a trumpet and we own this hand. And that's why it's crucial for the partnership to have that understanding early in an auction, just in case the opponents decide to sacrifice against you. Back to bidding 5 over 5. To bid onto the 5 level after the opponents have sacrificed at the 5 level themselves, in the long run, it tends to be a losing action, everyone, because you have to be quite accurate in the sense that you have to know that you're making your contract, A, and B, you would also have to be confident that you weren't taking the opponents off a lot of tricks. So if they're sacrificing at the 5 level, that means that there's every chance that they might also be going down 2 or 3 tricks. And the worst thing is bidding onto the 5 level yourself over the top of that and going down when it turns out that the opponents would have been 1 or 2 tricks or even more tricks down if you'd simply doubled them. So remember, even if your hand is quite distributional, your opponents aren't necessarily as distributional. Yep. Queens and jacks also, and this is a very interesting point, may be useful as deep tricks on a hand. I've also popped a hand in there for a moment or two where I've talked about what happens when your side has a double fit, and they're the tricky ones. When it turns out that your side holds most of the cards in 2 suits, and the opponents hold most of the cards in the other 2 suits, and there's some decisions you have to make sometimes in an auction. So let's continue on and look at this hand. I found this quite a fascinating hand. It came from real play. South opened with 1 heart and West overcalled 2 diamonds. North bid 2 hearts, East bid 3 diamonds, and South, of course, bid 4 hearts. Seems sensible, yes? Now West decided to bid on to 5 diamonds. North passed and East passed, and this came back to South. Well, South decided to bid on to 5 hearts. Why? Because they had a 7-4 distribution. When the truth is that all South had to do, or North-South had to do, was double the opponents in 5 diamonds. The 4 heart bid was the correct decision, but it was the 5, it would have been the 5 heart bid, and I've actually said here that South doubled on the hand, but in real play, at most of the tables, South bid 5 hearts. What happened to 5 hearts? They lost a club, a diamond, 2 spades, and it went 2 down. What would have happened to 5 diamonds? 5 diamonds would have gone off by losing a couple of spades and a heart in the end, and that would have gone 1 down as well. So this is a perfect example of where bidding 5 over 5 wasn't a good decision. And in this particular hand, perhaps North should have taken an action rather than South. I think North should have stopped South from bidding 5 hearts by doubling 5 diamonds. Why? Because North has a balanced hand. They have Jack 10 to 4 clubs there. They have the Queen of Spades here. And they really don't want to bid on this hand. So North made an error here by passing rather than doubling 5 diamonds. It would have been a much better idea for the auction to have gone 5 diamonds, double, no bid, no bid, no bid. A few questions. Ron is asking, is it only in the majors, a Q raise? No, it can happen in the minors too. Gillian, to open, do you count losers or okay? When you are balanced, then you count banzai. When you are unbalanced, you can look at a combination of high card points and losers. 5 is for the others. Once heard. Yes, Robin. This is a good way to remember it. Defend on odd occasions. What does that mean? Well, in competitive auctions, if the opponents have competed to the 3 level, should you bid 3 over the top of it? The answer is more often than not, no. If the opponents have bid to the 5 level, should you bid on to the 5 level over the top of that? The answer, more often than not, is no. So that's why we say defend on odd occasions. 3 and 5 are the odd occasions. The 3 level and the 3 level and the 5 level, you can see that there. So the 3 level and the 5 level are the odd occasions, and it tends to be more beneficial for your side to defend rather than bid on once the opponents are either at the 3 level in a competitive auction, a part score competitive, or at the 5 level in a game competitive auction. Okay, I've left something here called an alternative doubling theory. You can have a look at that yourself in your own time. I'm not going to suggest that everyone pushes this area here, but it might be something for you to look at if you want to go a bit deeper into this subject. But most of the information that you'll need is from here above. So let's play some hands. Open our hands on. There we go. Okay, so here is that hand that we discussed before. So if, let's say, looking at this hand from South's perspective, South opened a diamond. You remember this hand from the examples I gave you. West bid a spade and partner bid 2 hearts. Now, that instantly says 10 plus points, 5 plus hearts. You have here 13 points. Partner's got 10 plus. Who owns the hand? Your side owns the hand. East makes a preemptive raise to 3 spades, promising 4 cards and spades. So if East has 4 spades and West has 5 spades, then partner has 1 spade. You bid 4 hearts here as South. West sacrifices in 4 spades. And now, because your side can, a pass from the next player becomes a forcing pass. What does a forcing pass say? It says, partner, I'm interested to bid on. I'm keen to bid to the 5 level, but I don't want to mess things up for you because you might want to double them. So my pass says, partner, I'm keen to bid on, and I know my pass is forcing because we own the hand. And that's when forcing passes apply. Well, it comes back to South, and South says, okay, well, we've got 9 trumps, so the 5 level should be safe. My partner's passed, which probably means almost certainly that they've got a singleton or a void in spades, and they didn't want to take a decision in front of me. So my decision on the South hand is pretty easy. I'm going to bid 5 hearts. So that's what happens. East leads the ace of spades, and this hand, there's really nothing to the play. Ace of spades, another spade, declare a trumps in, Clara cashes the ace of hearts first, just in case there's a 4-0 break in the West hand. Now the hearts are breaking, so declare takes all of the hearts out, simply gives up the ace of clubs, wins the king of clubs, trumps a club. And then they've got the ace, king, queen, jack of diamonds. Question, I think I misunderstood. Didn't you say no for 3 and 5? So what I was saying is that if the opponents have bid to the 3 level or the 5 level, now in this instance, they haven't bid to the 5 level. They've stayed at the 4 level. So you've got an interesting decision to make. You might not be able to get terribly rich out of their 4 level contract. So If that's the case, then it could be a good idea for you to bid on. So understand that. It's about bidding 3 over 3 or about bidding 5 over 5. There are exceptions to this, and we'll discuss that in a minute with one of these hands about bidding 5 over 5. But essentially, that whole idea of defending on odd occasions means that if the opponents have bid to an odd level, now in this instance, they bid to 4 spades, that's an even level. Therefore, you have a crucial decision to make. You may not get terribly rich by doubling them with the south hand. Therefore, it looks, everything points towards your side bidding on to the 5 level. A few more questions. If they are vulnerable, would you double them knowing they would go down? Sure. Vulnerability does come into it to a point, especially if they're at unfavorable vulnerability. So imagine if East-West were vul and North-South were not vul, then North-South might choose more often than not to double them in 4 spades rather than risk bidding on to the 5 level. Well, how would, let's have a look, options, look at the card. There you go. How would East-West have gone in 4 spades? It was a good sacrifice. They would have lost 1 heart, 1 diamond, and probably 1 or 2 cards in clubs. Now, that means that 4 spades might even, if things had gone well, might even have made on this hand. So how can you play this hand to lose only 1 club trick? Can everyone see how you would do that? You have to pick which side, or which player holds the Doubleton club honor. If you think it's south, then you lead the jack of clubs through that player. If they cover with the queen, you win with the ace, you lead through the king towards the 10. If they don't cover with the queen, jack, low, low, king, then when you play a low one, the queen pops up and the ace wins. And now your 10 is high. So you have to guess which side holds the Doubleton club honor. Okay, let's move on. Very interesting hand. I like this hand because this is the whole hand that I gave you from before, and why the opponent should have bid, or partner should have bid in a different way. So, mimicking the hand from yesterday in some respects, South that I played with Tony, South opens a heart, West bids 2 spades, weak jump over call. Well, North knows that 4 hearts is a likely contract, but North also has a good hand. Rather than simply bid 4 hearts, which would be a preemptive bid, how does North say to South, our partner, this hand belongs to us? They Q-raise. So the Q-raise promises the 10 plus points. And what that puts into motion, everybody, is the hand ownership. So once your side owns the hand, the opponents cannot play any contract undoubled. Well, East bids on to 4 spades, and South says pass. Pass, pass, back to North. Well, this is a pretty easy decision. And also, you're very happy that partner didn't bid on over the top of the 4 spade bid. They definitely have a singleton or a void in spades. That's why they passed. But you've got good spade winners here. You've got a balanced shape here. There's no reason why you should venture onto the 5 level, especially when you consider that you don't even know if you have more than 8 trumps. Either way, even if we had 9 trumps, I would still much prefer to defend holding king, jack, another spade. So that's why the North hand should now double. And this is why forcing passes are key to learning about whether a hand should bid on or not. It's about the partnership having a mutual decision. So they've gotten to 4 spades, and West is our declarer, and North leads the ace of hearts. Well, this looks pretty straightforward. North-South take their two red aces, and their ace king of clubs. Now they're up to 5 tricks already in defense. And when declarer plays another trump from dummy, North gets an extra spade trick with the jack. So that means that 7 tricks for declarer, or that is minus 500. Now, how would North-South have gone in 5 spades? So let's look at the hand here. Sorry, we rewind. There's the whole hand. Well, North-South would have gone down in 5 hearts. They would have lost a spade. They would have lost either 2 diamonds and a spade, or a spade, 1 diamond, and 1 club. So there's only 10 tricks in hearts for North-South. Very important hand for North-South to get the decision right over 4 spades. Let's move on. Here we go. So let's look at again, the South hand here. Partner, as North opens 1 spade, East overcalls 2 clubs, and with 10 points and a spade fit, South bids 3 clubs. Again, another one of the cue raises, and why these things are important is to obviously tell partner that you hold the balance of the power here, partner. This hand belongs to us. Now, everyone, these cue bids can't be asking for a stopper or something like that. They're all very specific. If it goes opening bid from partner, overcall, and you cue bid the overcall, you're always saying to partner, partner, I've got a trump fit with you. It doesn't matter if partner's opened a minor or a major. So I'll repeat that. 1 of a suit from partner, any overcall from the opponents. Let's say it's 1 spade. If I bid 2 spades, I have a cue raise. I've got a trump fit with you and 10 or more points. This is a really vital part of good constructive bidding, especially in competitive options. So that's what we did. Bid 3 clubs, and West decides to muddy the waters and bid 5 clubs. They call that an advanced sacrifice, everyone. West knew that North-South were likely to bid 4 spades, and they wanted to make North-South take their first decision at the 5 level. So back to South. Well, North passes. Interesting. Even though North is saying to South, partner, I'm interested in bidding on, and even though the opponents are at the 5 level, and normally it's a very bad idea to bid 5 over 5, North has still put that down as a possibility to South. North passes, East passes, and South can't pass 5 clubs out. Why? Because that pass is a forcing pass. But South doesn't really have a hand that wants to bid on. South has got not very good cards in the red suits, only the Queen of Hearts, 3 small diamonds. I don't think that bidding 5 over 5 here would be a good idea. And especially looking at Queen X and clubs. That Queen of clubs, if it was somewhere else, maybe there'd be a case. But the South hand says, no, I can't see 11 tricks. So South says, double. And 5 clubs doubled becomes the final contract. South leaves the ace of spades. Looks like a pretty straightforward hand for the declarer. They lose a spade. They lose ace king of diamonds. That's already 1 down. And you can see here that they'll also lose an extra heart trick. But once they get on play, they draw the trumps. And eventually they have to give up a heart trick because they're missing both the king and the queen. Now, let's have a look at what would happen if North-South were allowed to play this hand in 5 spades. So how would 5 spades go? Well, this looks like it's down. I've got a club loser, They've got a heart loser, and they look like a diamond loser. In fact, they might have two heart losers. Is there a way, do you think, that they can avoid two heart losers on this hand, everyone? You can see all four hands, and the way to avoid it is by leading the three of hearts through the ace after trumps are drawn. What does East do? If they play the ace, both the king and the queen are winners. So they play the 8, which leaves the ace singleton. And South plays the queen, and then when South plays the next round of hearts, it goes 2, 9, South simply plays the 5 and drops the doubleton, ace of hearts. So interesting, you can only make 4 spades if you find that line of play. So therefore, bidding on to 5 spades would have been a very poor idea. Question, is 3 clubs alertable? Q bids are not alertable. They're deemed to be self-alerting. And why is that? Because whenever you bid the opponent's suit, it's considered that something strange is already happening. The whole idea of alerting is to alert the opponents to the fact that something strange is going on, but bidding the opponent's suit is already strange. So they are already alerted. Okay, last hand. Everyone, once I finish this lesson, I very much like you to have a look at the basis of why a lesson like this is important, because it brings up a couple of very interesting principles. And the most important principle is the idea of ownership of a hand. Yep, ownership of a hand is very important as to whether systems like this will work or not. If your side hasn't defined whether you own the hand or not, then of course this system wouldn't apply. And that's what allows us to make what we call forcing passes. Lena's asked a question. Thought Q bid is 10 plus. Yeah, it is 10 plus, Lena. 10 plus, not 10 exactly, but 10 plus, definitely. And that's why it's important to get across the ownership, certainly in high cards. So you're sitting here with the south hand. And I touched on this subject, everyone, of having a double fit. So watch what happened in this auction. East opened a diamond and you passed. West bid 1 heart and partner bid 2 hearts. Now, that's a Michael's Q bid. And what is a Michael's Q bid showing? It shows 5-5. When 2 suits have already been bid by the opponent, diamonds and hearts, then the Michael's Q bid will show 5 cards in both of the unbid suits. That is spades here and clubs. So North is known to already hold 5 spades and 5 clubs. That's interesting because South is in a position now where they know that there is a double fit on this hand. And these are the hands where quite often these principles get thrown out of the window, because when your side holds 2 suits and they hold 2 suits, then this could be an example of when it may be the right thing to do by bidding 5 over 5. So East bids 4 hearts. So it looks like East-West think they own the hand here because East has jumped to 4 hearts. You're going to bid on to 4 spades here because you've got a 5-5 in spades and clubs in the North hand. East passes, which is a forcing pass. East-West passes, which is a forcing pass. Partner passes, and East bids on to 5 hearts. Now, I'm not prepared on this hand to sit back and defend at the 5 level when it looks like the opponents own all of the red suit cards and we own most of the black suit cards. So if that's the case, if your side holds a double fit, then it normally is the right practice to bid on to the 5 level, especially when you know that you've got at least 1 9-card fit and another 10-card fit. So that's why I suggested to bid on to 5 spades with this South hand, going against that rule of defending on odd occasions. So that would be an exception to the rule. Well, anyway, 5 spades was untouched. I don't know what happened here. East-West probably suddenly thought, well, I'm playing against a double fit here. When you thought the auction was forcing, of quite often I find when I'm at the table and I have these hands, I always double my opponents. Watch what happens. Ace of hearts lead, diamond switch, and now I'm going to try to draw the trumps. And they break. Interesting. So West has passed here with the doubleton spade. I think we'll find out that West has some diamond support. Now I need to worry about a 3-0 club break. It's likely if there's short clubs, it's going to be in the East hand because they've got diamonds and hearts and also already a doubleton spade. So I'm going to cash the king of clubs in case there's 3 to the queen here. Well, there isn't clubs break. So we take 11 tricks. And if you look at the entire hand here, I just missed how you do that. Okay, so and diagram, back to this. I'll just keep on going with the play. So all the cards come up. Okay, there we go. So now I can show you the whole hand. There you go. So if you can see the whole hand, no, you can't. I give up. So the whole hand was that East-West could comfortably make 5 hearts, and North-South, sorry, East-West were 1 down and 5 hearts, whilst North-South could comfortably make 5 spades. It was a very interesting hand where bidding onto the 5 level for both sides was the right thing to do. Quick question here. Does Michael's bid apply after the opener as well as the responder? Sure, it can apply in both seats. So you can make a Michael's Q bid whether it's the opener who's started with the first call or whether it's the responder. And it can occur whether the opener and responder bid different suits or they raise a suit. So 1 heart pass, 2 hearts, 3 hearts. That would be a Michael's Q bid. 1 diamond pass, 1 heart, 2 hearts like we had here, a Michael's Q bid. So Michael's Q bids occur whether the opponents, whether it's over an opener's bid or over a responder's bid. Okay, everyone, I hope you enjoyed that. I'll keep the lines open so you can ask some questions. Otherwise, we may see you all this afternoon. Thank you.